The human clown, the lights were too bright. Sarah squinted as she stood on the round metal stage. Above her, thousands of alien eyes stared down. They laughed. They pointed. Some even threw bits of glowing food at her. This was not a stage. It was a cage. The alien arena was massive, built like a bowl of lights and screens. In the center, Sarah stood alone. Her clothes were torn, her feet bare. Her wrists had glowing cuffs, but she had learned not to pull. They gave painful shocks. A voice echoed through the arena. Presenting, the human clown. The crowd roared with laughter. A screen showed her face, zoomed in. She looked tired, small, harmless. The aliens loved that. To them, humans were toys, jokes, pets. Sarah was chosen for being the weakest. When the alien scouts captured her on Earth 2 years ago, she had been running from a burning city, hiding in an old basement. She wasn't a soldier or a genius, just a girl who loved books, silence, and the stars. Now she danced for monsters. A horn sounded. The floor beneath her shifted. Spinning platforms rose. Walls appeared. The game had started. Today's challenge was survival stairs, a cruel test where the floor changed every 10 seconds. If you didn't keep moving, you fell. And below? Fire. Run, pet. An alien guard shouted from the edge. Sarah ran. She stumbled, slipped, but got up quickly. Her heart pounded. Her mind, though, stayed calm. She had learned how to breathe, how to fall without getting hurt, how to smile when they laughed. The trick was simple. They must never know you're planning. On the 3rd level of stairs, she jumped across a spinning ring and nearly missed. The crowd gasped, then cheered. She had almost died. That made great entertainment. A small drone hovered near her face, broadcasting her fear to the audience. So she smiled. Inside, she whispered, "Just watch me." After 20 minutes, the game ended. She had survived. Not that it mattered. The aliens weren't interested in her skill. They liked watching her suffer. This was just sport. She collapsed to her knees. A robotic arm came down and attached to her cuffs, pulling her off the stage like a toy on a string. The audience clapped, lazily, their attention already moving to the next show. In the back halls of the arena, the lights were dim. Metal walls hummed with alien energy. Sarah was dropped into her cage, a clear box in a row of others. She wasn't the only one here. A lizard-like creature curled in the next box. A 3-eyed child cried silently in another. "What is she?" someone asked in the alien tongue. "Just a human." Dumb but funny. Sarah sat down, wiping sweat from her forehead. The guard walked away. Silence returned. But someone was watching. Behind a control panel in a dark corner of the control room, an alien with silver skin leaned forward. His name was Core, and unlike the others, he didn't laugh when he watched her. He rewound the footage, her movements, her reactions, her smile. Something wasn't right. She should have been terrified, but she wasn't. Core pressed a button. The camera zoomed on her eyes. They burned with quiet fire. "Interesting," he muttered. Meanwhile, Sarah lay down on the floor of her cage. She stared at the ceiling. She could hear distant music, alien drums and horns celebrating the next match. She whispered softly to herself, "You laugh now. But one day." She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Sarah wasn't strong. She wasn't fast, but she was patient. She remembered everything, every alien word, every control panel she had seen, every mistake the guards made. She was learning. They had brought her here as a joke. That was their first mistake. One day she would make them pay, and that day was closer than anyone thought. The Watcher, the storm had come again. Cold air rattled through the vents above Sarah's cage. Every night on this alien station felt like a mix of frozen steel and burning lights. Sarah sat quietly, knees tucked in, her fingers tracing the same lines on the floor for the 100th time. She wasn't drawing. She was remembering. Every corner, every sound, every guard's footsteps, every system beep. every weakness. Across the hall, a metal door opened. Not the usual sliding noise. This one hissed, slow and heavy. Someone important was coming. Sarah didn't move. A tall alien entered. Not like the others. This one didn't wear armor or laugh or throw food at the cages. His skin was silver blue, smooth, and his eyes glowed faint green. He had 6 fingers on each hand, long and steady. He didn't speak. He just watched. He stood in front of Sarah's cage for a full minute. The silence was so sharp it felt like a blade. She could feel it. This one was different. Then, without a word, he walked away. "That's him," whispered a voice from the next cage. It belonged to the lizard-like creature, hunched, scarred, and broken from years of captivity. "That's the scientist. They say he builds mines and or breaks them." "What's his name?" Sarah whispered. "Core." That name stayed with her. Something about him felt colder than the guards, but not cruel, like he was testing something. The next day, Sarah was brought to a new chamber. It wasn't the stage. This room was small, quiet, with soft white lights and a round table in the middle. She was alone. No cuffs, no chains, no cameras. Just her and Core. He sat across from her, fingers interlocked, eyes sharp but calm. "You are not what they think," he said slowly, speaking near-perfect English. Sarah didn't answer. "Most humans cry," he said. "You don't. You smile." Still, she said nothing. Core leaned forward. "Why?" Sarah smiled softly. "Maybe I enjoy the show." A flicker of amusement crossed Core's face. Or maybe it was curiosity. He pulled out a small orb from his coat. Metallic, glowing faintly red. "What is this?" he asked. She stared at it. It looked like nothing she had seen before, but she could guess. "A memory core," she said calmly. Core's fingers tightened. "You've seen one before?" "No," she replied, "but the energy signature, and your face, told me enough." Core placed the orb back into his coat. He studied her like a puzzle that shouldn't exist. "You're pretending," he said. "On stage, in your cage. You act slow, but your eyes map everything." Sarah stayed silent. Then Core said something strange. "They think you're a toy, but I think you're a weapon." The room fell silent again. Finally, Sarah leaned forward. Her voice was low, calm, dangerous. "I'm just a joke. Remember? Not to me," Core replied. "That's why I'm offering you something. Freedom." Her heart skipped, but her face didn't change. "Why?" she asked. "Because I need someone they ignore. Someone invisible. Someone like you." "For what?" "To destroy them." The silence now felt heavier than chains. Core stood up. "I'll come back tomorrow. Think about it." As he walked away, the door hissed shut behind him. Sarah exhaled slowly. What is he really after? Can he be trusted? Or is this another test? That night, the lights in the cages blinked for half a second. Only once. No one noticed. Except her. She had watched the system flicker. Power loss in Sector 9. Tiny. Almost unimportant. But not to her. The next day, she agreed to meet Core again. This time, he handed her something small. A ring. Alien metal. Cold to the touch. "Press it once," he said. "You'll see things others can't." When she did, the walls of the room shifted. She saw hidden wires, heat patterns, and cameras. Thousands of cameras. Watching everyone, everywhere. But in this room, none. Core smiled. "This is the only blind spot on the station. They don't know about it yet." He paused. "We will start small. You'll cause a delay, nothing more. A gate malfunction, 2 seconds." "Why?" she asked. "To test if they notice." She nodded. She did it, and no one noticed, except Core. He smiled again. A rare thing for his kind. "Welcome to the war." And just like that, the joke was over. Sarah was no longer a toy. She was a spark, about to set fire to a broken empire. The spark the station lights dimmed for only 3 seconds. 3 seconds was enough. Inside her cage, Sarah sat motionless, but her mind raced like wildfire. The flicker in the light meant one thing. The glitch had worked. Core's plan, the first test, had passed. No alerts, no alarms. They didn't see her. They never saw her. And that was their biggest mistake. Core met her again the next morning. Same white room, same soft lights. But something was different. He was nervous. "It begins now," he said, sliding a small device across the table. Sarah looked at it. It was a thin disc, no larger than her palm. Smooth, silver, humming softly. "Place it on any control panel," Core said. "It won't break anything. Not yet. It will only listen." "And then?" Sarah asked. "Then it learns. And when it knows enough, we strike." "We?" Core didn't answer directly. Instead, he said, "You'll need access to the maintenance tunnels. I've unlocked Sector 12 for you. Act like you're lost, scared. The guards won't question it." Sarah picked up the disc, slid it under her sleeve. Then she looked at him. Carefully. "Why are you helping me, Core?" "Really?" His jaw tightened. His voice for once sounded human. "Because my planet was the first one they burned." That night, Sarah was led through the back halls. An alien handler pushed her toward a new game arena, but she tripped near a doorway and accidentally turned into the wrong corridor. No one noticed. She wandered into Sector 12, heart thumping, pulse steady. Invisibility was her weapon. Humiliation was her armor. She found a wall panel behind a broken screen. She placed the disc. Click. A single red blink. Done. She turned back, but someone was watching. A small alien girl stood at the far corner. Blue skin. Large eyes. Terrified. Sarah raised a finger to her lips. The girl didn't speak. But she nodded. Sarah walked away. A new question burned in her mind. How many more prisoners are watching, waiting, afraid to move? 2 days later, the station buzzed with tension. An entire control deck had shut down for 6 minutes. The guards blamed a solar flare. Engineers didn't understand it, but Core knew. And so did Sarah. They met again. This time in a broken lab, deep inside the station's unused levels. Core showed her something she wasn't ready for. A small black box. It pulsed red. Inside was a message. A human message. Core activated it. A hologram appeared, grainy, flickering. It showed an old man in military gear sitting in a ruined bunker. "If you're hearing this, then Earth is not dead. We are scattered, broken, but we fight still. We survived the harvest. We're out there." The recording ended. Sarah didn't speak for a long time. Her hands shook. Her throat felt tight. "You said Earth was gone," she whispered. Core looked away. "That's what they told us. Even I believed it. Until I found this." "Where did it come from?" "A ship. Captured. Destroyed. Only this remained. I kept it hidden." Sarah closed her eyes. For the first time in years, she felt something that had been buried under the pain. Hope. And with hope came rage. "We're not just fighting for escape anymore," she said. "We're fighting to rise." Core nodded. "And now, we need power. Real power. There's a control node inside the central vault. It runs part of their AI defense grid. Get me inside and we can blind their systems." Sarah stared at him. "How do I reach it?" He smiled slightly. "You've already earned the key." 2 days later, she stood once again on the stage. The crowd screamed with laughter. The human clown was back. Today's game? Mind maze, twisting tunnels, electric traps, illusion walls, designed to confuse and punish. But Sarah ran it perfectly, not because she was smart, but because Core had secretly shown her the map. And more importantly, the vault entrance was hidden under the final tunnel. She dropped into the last chute, and disappeared from the cameras for 12 seconds. Exactly as planned, long enough to open the vault gate, long enough to insert the second disc, long enough to plant the spark. She climbed out, bloody and bruised, barely alive. The crowd went wild. The aliens thought they were watching her suffer. They didn't know she had just crippled their early warning system. Later that night, back in her cage, Sarah stared at the ceiling again. But this time, she wasn't whispering to herself. This time, she was speaking directly into a hidden transmitter Core had built into her bed. "This is prisoner 2992. Codename, Echo. Message to any surviving human fleet. Earth lives. I repeat, Earth lives. We are rising from the chains. This is the start of fire." The escape. The alarm wasn't part of the plan. Sarah ducked behind a pile of broken panels, the sound of blasters echoing through the halls. Red lights pulsed across the corridor. Something had gone wrong. Terribly wrong. This was supposed to be a quiet infiltration. Now it was a war zone. 10 minutes earlier, everything had been calm. Sarah stood in the supply bay, disguised in a faded, alien worker's uniform. No cuffs, no cage. She had hacked her way into the schedule system 2 days ago, placing herself on today's maintenance roster, just another invisible body in the Empire. Core had given her a simple mission: plug a third data drive into the primary fusion core. It would override internal safety logs and allow full system manipulation. 10 minutes in, 10 out, he had said. Clean, silent, no eyes. But Sarah had barely crossed the first level when the explosion hit. A massive blast tore through the energy wing of the station. Flames rolled through the glass corridors like liquid fire. She was thrown backward, slamming into a wall, her breath stolen by the shockwave. When she stood up, alarms were screaming, and Core was missing from the comms. Sarah ran. Her cover was blown. The guards would be searching every hallway. And worse, if they found the drive on her, they'd trace it back to the entire resistance. Get to the ship, she told herself. Just get to the ship. She turned sharply, sprinting through Sector 9's lower tunnels, areas used for trash systems and dead robots. No cameras, no patrols. She had memorized every inch of it in the last few weeks. She climbed down a shaft, landing in a narrow corridor glowing with coolant leaks. Ahead, her escape waited. A half-buried ship, long forgotten, hidden behind junk, and shielded from scanners. Core had found it years ago but never had the crew or courage to fly it. Now it was Sarah's only chance. She reached the door and slammed her hand on the console. It didn't open. No power. She cursed under her breath. Core had warned her. The ship needed a jumpstart from the outside. He was supposed to meet her here, help her fly, but he wasn't here. She stared at the broken control panel, her reflection cracked across its surface. "I'll do it alone," she muttered. She pulled the power unit from her backpack. The emergency spike, only one use. As she connected it, something behind her moved. A shadow. She turned fast. It wasn't a guard. It was Core. But he was bleeding, limping. Ambush. He coughed. They knew. Someone told them. Sarah grabbed his arm and pulled him into the ship. "Who betrayed us?" she asked. "Don't know. Someone on the inside. Someone who saw too much." His eyes met hers. "You still have the drive?" She nodded. "Then you go," he said, pressing the start sequence on the console. "What about you?" "I'll hold the gate. They'll follow me, not you." "I'm not leaving you," she said. For a second, she wasn't the spy, not the weapon, just a girl who had been alone too long, but Core smiled. Sad. Calm. "You're not leaving me. You're carrying me forward." Outside, the guards were close now. She could hear their steps, shouts, scanners. Core stepped outside the ship. "You were more than a weapon, Sarah," he said. "You were the spark," and then he shut the hatch. From inside the ship, Sarah could see it all through the cracked window. Core stood tall, blaster in each hand, and fired at the guards without fear. He bought her 10 seconds, and that was enough. She slammed the launch. Control. The old ship groaned, its engines shaking with age and rage. Blue fire lit the walls and the floor lifted. As the ship burst through the hidden roof, breaking into open space, Sarah screamed, part pain, part fury, part freedom. She was out. For the first time in years. She wasn't in a cage. She wasn't watched. She wasn't laughed at. She was free. But freedom wasn't peace. Not yet. The nav system blinked with an old saved coordinate. An unknown signal Core had found long ago. It matched the human message. Maybe survivors, maybe a trap, maybe both. Didn't matter. Sarah gripped. The controls. Hold on, Earth, she whispered. I'm coming. The fleet space was quiet. Sarah stared through the cracked glass of the stolen alien ship, watching stars drift past like slow snow. Her hands gripped the controls, knuckles white. She had escaped. Left the cage. Left Core. Left behind the fires. But peace never came. Not out here. Not yet. The ship's AI, old, dying, glitchy, repeated the same words every hour. Tracking ancient signal. Origin. Unknown human beacon. Warning. Low fuel. Oxygen critical. She floated in that silence. For 3 days. Alone, no messages, no rescue, just memories. The games, the cage, the fire. Core's voice in her head. You're not leaving me, you're carrying me forward. And then, just as her oxygen levels hit 8%, her screen lit up. Incoming transmission source. Human signal. Classified decrypting. A voice came through. Rough, older, scarred. Unknown vessel. This is Commander Dahl of the Free Fleet. Identify yourself. Respond now or be destroyed. Sarah's voice cracked. This is Prisoner 2992. Sarah, I escaped the Zarkari arena. I have intel. I have proof. I'm not a threat. I'm static. Then silence. Then light. A dozen ships dropped out of warp around her. Massive, dark, patchwork machines held together by time, pain, and genius. Nothing like the clean ships she remembered from Earth's golden age. These ships were wounded survivors, and they had teeth. They locked onto her and pulled her in like a fly into a machine. Weapons pointed at her from every angle. Red lights, steel walls. When the hatch opened, Sarah collapsed into rough human hands. Real hands. Not claws, not metal. But no one smiled. The interrogation room was small. 2 guards, no windows. 1 table. Commander Dahl sat across from her. Tall. Gray, beard, cybernetic left eye, scars across his throat like he'd once been strangled by a war. He stared at her like she was a virus. How did you find us? I followed an old signal. Core gave it to me. He was an alien, a rebel. Still an alien. The room felt colder. Sarah leaned forward. I escaped alone. I survived their labs, their tests, their games. I've seen their systems, their weaknesses. I'm not here to be rescued. I'm here to fight. Dahl's eyes narrowed. Prove it. They took her to the fleet's central data vault. Guarded, shielded, locked in 6 layers of encryption. She placed Core's final drive into their core. It worked. Suddenly, their screens lit with data. Maps of the alien empire. Access codes. Weapon specs. AI patterns. Weak spots. Sarah had brought the spark of something the humans hadn't seen in 10 years. A way back. And still, not everyone trusted her. A woman named Reese, captain of the warship Emberblade, stood in the war room with her arms crossed. She's a ghost. No records, no rank. She could be a plant. So was I, said Dahl quietly. Once. Reese didn't blink. Then maybe neither of you should lead. Sarah watched the room splinter. Different voices, different pain. She realized something horrible. The humans weren't united. They had survived. But they had broken into factions. Old soldiers, pirates, scientists, scavengers, no central command. No Earth. Just floating anger in the dark. That night, alone in the crew barracks, Sarah opened her private comm to listen to Core's final voice file. His voice played softer now. If you've found the fleet, don't expect welcome. Humans turn on each other when they're afraid. But if you can unite them, they will burn down the stars. The next day, she demanded a mission, not to prove herself, to wake them up. Send me into their core relay, she said. Deep space, their signal nexus. I'll infect it with a blackout virus. Reese laughed. Suicide. Dahl raised one brow. Success would cripple their communication across 2 systems. Sarah nodded. Then let me die for something. Or let me show you how to win. A long silence. Then Dahl handed her a blade. You go, but you choose your team. Sarah handpicked her crew, a mute hacker who had lost her voice to alien surgery, a pilot with one eye and a death wish, a former slave soldier who had once guarded cages like hers, and now wanted revenge, and one surprise. Reese, I don't trust you, she said. Good, Sarah replied. Neither do I. As the mission ship left the hangar, the fleet watched in silence. No cheers, no anthem, just tension. But something had changed. They were no longer watching a clown, not a toy, not a survivor. They were watching a girl who had been beaten, caged, laughed at, and now carried the future in her hands. She looked out at the stars and whispered, I'm not just escaping now. I'm building something. And when it rises, they'll remember who lit the fire, Queen of Fire. They called it the Silent Zone, a dead patch of space where no signal could escape. No light, no stars, just black and the occasional drifting bone of a forgotten war. This is where the alien relay nexus floated. Massive, invisible, shielded. This is where Sarah was going. Her crew's stolen scout ship hummed with tension. Everyone was quiet. Even the ship seemed to breathe slower. 30 seconds to entry, the pilot said. His voice had no emotion, just weight. Sarah checked her gear, a memory spike, an overload core, and a blade. Not for defense, but for mercy, if needed. Behind her, Reese sat loading a plasma rifle. Once we hit the relay, she said, we'll have 4 minutes before the system recognizes the breach. We only need 3, Sarah replied. But time wasn't the real enemy. Doubt was. They broke through the relay field at full burn. Inside, the structure loomed like a sleeping god. Miles wide, built into an asteroid pulsing with blue veins of energy. This wasn't just a comms tower. It was a mind, a living core that connected the Zarkari Empire to every system, every planet, every ship. And Sarah was going to blind it. Her team moved fast. They bypassed patrol drones, sliced through sensor webs, reached the core chamber. But something was wrong. The chamber door was already open. A body lay on the floor, an alien tech, throat cut. Someone had been here before them. Trap, Reese whispered. But they had no choice. The virus had to be planted, now or everything Core died for would vanish. Sarah ran to the console, shoved in the memory spike. Code bloomed like blood across the screens. 3 minutes left. That's when the door slammed shut. And the voice came, deep, cold, familiar. Hello, again, little flame. An alien stepped from the shadows. Not a guard, not a soldier, a Zarkari high judge. He wore gold armor that shimmered like fire, and his eyes glowed with blue hate. You were never a joke, he said. You were always a warning. His fingers twitched, summoning a blade of energy from his palm. And now, you die here, and your rebellion dies with you. The fight was brutal. Reese fired first, burning a hole through the judge's shoulder, but it wasn't enough. The judge moved like a shadow, slicing through the air, cutting down the pilot in one strike. Sarah screamed, but she kept working, her hands flying across the keys, uploading the virus. Reese charged the judge, fighting like a storm. She gave Sarah 10 seconds, and it was enough. Upload complete. Sarah turned just in time to see Reese fall, blood across her chest, body broken. But the judge was wounded too, and now Sarah was the only one standing. I was your pet, she said. She picked up Reese's rifle. Now I'm your reckoning. And she pulled the trigger. 6 blasts. No mercy. The judge fell, his armor sparking, his chest opened to the void. Sarah dropped to her knees. Her team was dead. The relay was blind. And she had won. But victory doesn't come cheap. When she returned to the fleet, they met her in silence. Commander Dahl stepped forward. "The alien empire has gone dark," he said. "Their ships are blind, their systems are screaming. The message is clear. Someone struck them from the inside." He looked at Sarah. "That someone was you." And then he knelt, not out of weakness, out of respect. So did others. Dozens, hundreds, even the ones who doubted. And suddenly, Sarah was no longer a survivor. She was a symbol, the fire that would not be caged. They gave her the title she never asked for. Queen of Fire. Not royalty, not power, responsibility. She stood before the fleet, what remained of humanity, and gave her first command. This is not a moment to cheer. This is not the end. This is the first breath of war. She held up the memory spike. They tortured us, laughed at us, called us less. Now, we call them prey. Her voice grew stronger. We will not just fight for survival. We will fight for meaning, for legacy, for Earth. And the fleet roared, not like an army, but like a species, reborn. In that moment, Sarah stopped being human. She became something more. Legacy. They returned to Earth under fire. The human fleet, once broken, scattered, silent, now surged forward as one body, one scream, one flame. Behind them, the stars burned with the wreckage of the Zarkari Empire's outer defenses. In front of them floated Earth, still whole, but caged, and dying slowly. From orbit, it looked like a jewel wrapped in chains. Massive alien constructs hovered over cities, draining energy, rewriting skies. They hadn't destroyed the planet. They had turned it into a zoo. Broadcast towers beamed human, suffering across the galaxy. Prison camps stretched across what was once Africa. Genetic labs blinked across broken mountain ranges. Millions of humans lived inside controlled zones, watched, labeled, drugged. Sarah stood at the bridge of her command ship, the Ember's Edge, surrounded by silence. Her eyes locked on the planet she hadn't seen since she was taken as a teenager. "They didn't just enslave us," she whispered. "They made our pain entertainment." Commander Dahl stood beside her. "What's your order, Queen?" Sarah didn't flinch at the title anymore. "We break the chains. We end the show. We burn the lie." And so, the battle for legacy began. The assault was chaos and fury. Human ships dived into the Zarkari grid like sharks in blood. They used Core's blueprints, Sarah's hacks, Reese's sacrifice, all of it. Every inch of pain had become a weapon. Sarah led the charge herself, her ship cutting through enemy lines with brutal precision. But it wasn't easy. The Zarkari weren't dead, just wounded, and cornered. And cornered beasts fight hardest. As the fleet broke through the third orbital ring, a signal blared across all channels. Alien language twisted into basic, a voice. Deep, familiar. "So the little flame returns." Sarah froze. She knew that voice. "Come then, human. If you are fire, come burn your god." The screen showed his face. The Zarkari Supreme Mind. A creature older than Earth's written history. The one who created the games, the cages, the industry of pain. He had called her a joke when she was just a girl on a leash. He had built an empire on the backs of human screams. And now, he waited on Earth. Sarah made a decision. She took a strike squad, launched in silence, and landed deep inside the central spire over New York, once a city of light, now a monument of glass and surveillance. The alien halls were quiet. Too quiet. Her team moved fast, hall by hall, floor by floor, until they reached the throne room. The Supreme Mind sat on a high seat of liquid metal. His body was more machine than flesh. His eyes were like dying stars. And he was smiling. "You burned a few ships," he said. "Broke a few chains, but you are still the animal we raised." Sarah didn't raise her weapon. She stepped closer. "I was your pet. your clown, your show, and every time you laughed, I learned. And now what? You think your kind will build an empire? You're chaos. You fight each other. Maybe, she said, but we earned that right. We bleed for it. And we rise from it. He leaned forward. Then kill me. And become what you hate. But Sarah shook her head. You die, yes, but not as a martyr. Not as a ruler. Not even as a memory. She turned to her squad. Broadcast now. They activated the tower's core. Across the galaxy, across systems and networks, billions watched. The Empire's signal was hijacked, and in every home, every city, every hive, they saw him kneel, not executed, not honored, defeated. Sarah didn't strike the final blow. She walked away. And behind her, the Empire crumbled. Days later, Earth stood free for the first time in a century. Camps opened. Families wept. Children were told the word hope for the first time. A monument was built in the ashes of the alien tower, not of Sarah, but of a flame. Simple, pure, eternal. In a quiet valley far from cities, Sarah walked alone. A girl approached her, small, maybe 6, scared eyes. Are you the Queen of Fire? Sarah knelt, smiled. No, she said. I'm the spark. You are the fire now. And in that moment, Sarah was no longer a leader, no longer a soldier. She was legacy.